All right, I'm Sergeant 126U, and here we are again with another episode of Deep Dive. And this is episode
3.
All right, episode 3. Today I'm here with my good friend, Nathan Parham. Once again, another fellow man camper. His man camp handle is Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies.
Okay, so today we're going to get into your life story because for me, I think it's sort of a story of success, failure, and then redemption, bouncing back, resiliency, all that kind of stuff. Typical of, your brother's story and even Hugh's story. It's sort of a roller coaster, but that's life, right?
Searching for sanity.
Yeah. So we'll get into your childhood, and then we'll get into your time as an Army Ranger with the 2nd 75th. And we'll talk about what happened during your enlistment, and then we'll talk about post-enlistment, because sometimes bad things happen to good people, right?
Yeah.
But it's how we remain resilient and bounce back, in my opinion, that really matters.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I know you, but the viewers don't. So where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Talk to me about your childhood.
Okay, so born in Ep3, Santa Cruz County.
California.
California, 1970. Grew up with my parents. We spent a lot of time in Santa Cruz with Grandma, but I think we lived in Van Nuys and LA and Anaheim, just a blur of places and moving, down south where we're living. Everything was good. I think we even had a house once. I remember a house, we had a dog, everything was pretty cool there. The whole time Dad had a heavy hand, so it was kind of got used to it as far as that goes, but you cherish the good times during those years. I remember growing up, living in apartments, whatever. When did it finally, just normal school stuff. And then we were living in San Jose. We just moved out of my Uncle Donald's apartment. We were living with him in his house, sharing a room. Me, my brother Bobby, and my mom and dad.
How old were you then?
I was 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah, 77. Noel and Aaron weren't around yet.
So Noel and Aaron are your younger siblings, and Robert is the oldest, right?
Younger siblings. They're 10 years difference of the groups, so they're a year apart. We're 10 years separated, so they came around 80. Yeah, 79, 80.
So that's got to be a little weird. Like, it's just the two Musketeers, you and Bobby, for a long time. And then all of a sudden, you
two peas in a pod, man. He was my mouthpiece.
Yeah, I get these other two little siblings.
Yeah.
And, including a sister.
Yeah, I remember when Noel was born, my dad came home and we were little kids, and he brought home some champagne and poured it in a big old cup. He's like, let's drink. To celebrate your, we didn't even know what that was, but the baby came home, and I remember she was cute. She'd spit up all over everything, and it was all good. Didn't break our stride too much, but so we moved in pre-Noel and Aaron, we moved in with my Uncle Dean, who's my mother's brother. He passed. Him and Marie, we moved into a room with them. Well, it seemed like we're moving into rooms in people's houses, Mm-hmm. And Dad was always running from this garnishment that he was running from my half-sister, Kelly, we talk. She actually lives in the Midwest.
How old is Kelly?
She's
compared to you.
Noel's age, so 10 years. She's about 40.
Okay.
Yeah, looks a lot like my dad. That was recent. Facebook, it's a miracle, right?
Well, that's good. Social media is good for something, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, those are the blessings of it. You got to take in stride. But anyway, so we moved in with Uncle Dean and Marie. Dad was kicking the shit out of me pretty good then.
Any particular reason?
He's frustrated. His money problems, I don't know. Everybody would say that I always make excuse for my dad. My parents, I love them. But it's like, always frustrated, money problems, hard worker, accolades, great job performance, all these things, little bit of recreational things that he chose to do. but frustrated. I think it was the money problems. I think it was, I don't know. I know what it was. He was just always just a heavy hand, overbearing, but when the times were good, they were good. But just, always seemed like he lived with his hat in his hand with towing the 2 kids behind. So living there and everything was okay, but he pretty heavy-handed. I mean, I was a little shit, but I wasn't that bad. I just think that, I was sort of a whipping boy for, some of his frustrations, even though I was, so my mom would put the whole makeup and put the makeup on me and stuff. And so we lived there for a while. And that was coming to the end of my residency with my parents for a number of years, till about 85, freshman of high school. So this particular time, I acted up in school, elementary school, did something, we're living in San Jose, and got sent home. Principal took me home. My Uncle Dean was at the house. My dad was at work. He interceded for me, acting like he was my dad, because he knew I was going to get the shit kicked out of me. And then answered a phone call from the principal at school, and was acting like he was my dad. My dad walked in and heard the conversation.
Ooh.
So lo and behold, got the ass kicking anyway.
So that didn't work out too well.
No. So I was pretty beat up. My mom put makeup on me, sent me to school, and I just remember that the teacher saw something on my arm and sent me to the nurse's office, and they started probing. Next thing you know, uniform showed up, officers showed up, they stripping me down naked with flashbulb photography, and that was it.
At any point in time, was CPS involved?
They were there too.
Okay.
People with clipboards and the whole nine, taking photos of me, and like the damn paparazzi.
How'd you feel with all that going on?
I felt wanted in some weird way.
So did it make you feel like you weren't a victim, that you were a suspect in some way?
I felt I was a suspect in my dad's eyes. I felt I was a victim with all those professional people around me probing at me. It made me feel important, but it also made me feel scared and sad and shameful. Like, what the hell? So, child shelter, group homes, back to juvenile hall, group homes, juvenile hall, group homes. 5 years of that crap.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and the system in my day wasn't. Meanwhile, Noelle and Aaron are born, and they're little baby kids, and got to spend a little time with them before I left home. And then I would get these little visits, passes, until Mom and Dad moved their asses to Anaheim, and I'm up here in the court system in San Jose. So Noelle and Aaron are born. I'm in the shelters. I'm in the homes. The parents. I got a lot of experience, especially with alcohol and chemicals and sex and things like that, from being in the group homes and juvenile halls. That's why I lost a lot of faith in adults, because they would find a way to. Like at the shelter, there was a pedophile there. One of the reasons why I got sent from the shelter to juvenile hall was because I wasn't on board with his crap. His name was Al Ershman, and he would come in every morning, and there was a row of beds this side, row of beds this side, boys. And he would flip the boys on their stomachs, one by one, pull up their shirt, pull up the lotion, and rub their shoulders and sing Puff the Magic Dragon. So when he got about 2 bunks from me, I go hide in the bedroom till fire call's over and it's first light watch, the lights come on. I'm hiding on the toilet like this, morning after morning, while this freak is doing this. So he had me shipped off to juvenile hall.
Do you think local PD ever got tipped off to him?
Maybe eventually. But once I left the shelter then, that was downhill. It was juvenile hall and group homes. I never went back to that shelter. That was it. That was like
How old were you at that
utopia
time?
for kids. 9? Yeah, 8 or 9. Yeah, because I remember I was 10 and 81 where parents were on the Family Feud. So yeah, I was watching it from juvenile hall on TV, watching my family on the Family Feud. Trippy. Anyway, so that was that. So counselors and foster home parents would buy us beer, alcohol, take us on trips in conversion vans. Remember them conversion vans?
Oh, yeah.
They got curtains.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, did some of that kind of stuff. Wow, alcohol is great. Smoking weed, they're smoking weed. And
So at a young age, you're exposed to all this stuff, you know, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, if you will. What kind of impact do you think that had on you going into your high school years?
It put it at another echelon. It wasn't, oh, high school, great, groovy, I'll get my books and run to the class. It was, I already have the veil opened a little bit about how you can feel and what is socially accepted. And you know, your taste, your appetites get a little weirder or deeper. I don't know if that's a good thing. In high school when you went through that, because now you're a little bit thicker skinned, desensitized, you're ready for it, bring it on, drink a little beer, whatever, fight. I'm not going to curl up in a ball and cry. I'm not like the average high school, junior high guy.
At a young age, you're already starting to develop what we would call intestinal fortitude. You've already gone through some things in your, you know, formative years that sort of toughen that skin, so to speak. Do you think that for someone going into high school that you were a lot more resilient than your fellow students?
Yeah, for sure. Most kids my age, except for like some of the jocks I played sports with, seemed a little milksoppy, just a little fraily, a little man bunny. Whereas my appetites, my teeth were a little longer. You know, I wanted a little bit more meat out of life, a little tougher, a little ready to get down in the dirt, adventure, you know, things like that going into high school. Kind of disappointed with people, bullies, adults. I kind of started seeing through, started finding my spiritual being then, where I could see through people. People didn't automatically get respect because of their age or their position. It was, you had to look through it because everybody seemed like an adversary or an enemy, right, until they proved otherwise. So going into high school, I still had that glee and hope. Even when I was a kid, I still have, I mean, I've had a lot of professionals tell me that, you know, that sounds like I'm some kind of kooky bird, but that I was born with joy. You know, I love art and I was born with joy, so I want to keep that. So even in high school, I had joy in my heart. I wasn't hardened or like some group home kid, some dead end kid who was just, you know, with a hoodie on and frickin', It wasn't me. I loved it. I just had that extra tool in my toolbox, right? I think.
No, since I've met you, you know, I met you in maybe 89 or 90, maybe 90, I think I met you. And to me, you always had like a very, very good heart and a free spirit, and definitely very friendly, very personable, and a very loving person, which it kind of shows just how complex you are as a person because of your background. So usually, you know, you talked about it earlier, like you weren't like this group home kid, right?
Right.
The stereotypical, you know, juvenile delinquent.
Jaded, tragic, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even at a young age coming out of the Army, when I met you, you had a great spirit, you know. I never would have known this stuff based on how you were.
Right.
Which is a testament to you, essentially, and your mindset. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so in high school, where are you going to school at?
Harbor High School in Santa Cruz. Well, I started my freshman year, Magnolia High School in Anaheim, Orange County. Played on the football team there, in my brother's shadow, as it were. That's no one there nor around. They're little kids, 5, 4, something like that, running around. But I went to high school with my brother. He was really good on the football team, and I was kind of like his shadow. But those are good times, me and him, going into one school and just living our life. back home from the homes. Came home with a mustache. I remember that was like one of the only times I saw a tear in my father's eye when he came to the door, because my mother picked me up, borrowed somebody's car. I was in juvenile hall at the time. I got a new probation officer. She brought me into another room, countless rooms, and said, "This shit has gone long enough. I'm sending you home. Here's your bus ticket." And that was after another 6 months in juvenile. Sent me home. Mom got a car, took me home. Dad shows up at the door. Got a little sad. Only time I ever seen him a little sad. That was it. Freshman. Started doing our thing. Started living in Anaheim for a while. We lived in Anaheim for maybe a year and a half. My brother Bob bounced. He went to go live with Aunt Yolanda.
Yeah.
I was there, and we wound up getting evicted, moving into a hotel, going from a hotel, living with Grandma Mercy in Santa Cruz in one of her apartments that she had. She owned a freaking Shore and Sea Apartments on East Cliff Drive.
Okay.
She managed them, so that's where we moved after that.
Okay.
Started my new high school career at Harbor High School in Santa Cruz as a sophomore.
All right.
And finished my years there.
Other than football, did you get into any other sports?
Track and field.
Track and field.
Junior high, I played Morello Tigers. I played basketball. Couldn't breathe half the time. It sucked because surrounded by cigarette smoke all my life.
Okay.
But an experience. So yeah, track and field, football. That's about it. Did a lot of art, stuff like that.
Okay.
Key club president. There's a nerd right there.
How was your brother treating you in high school?
You know, it was off and on.
Were you guys getting along or what?
We get along for the most part, unless I kind of was invading on his cool. I didn't really have my own cool identity yet. I was getting there. Like when he would hand me down clothes, I felt like my brother. I was like a little clone. So I kind of adopted his culture and everything like that. Treated me good, unless I did something stupid or I don't know, said something, whatever. But there were times where it seemed like I was cramping his style. He wanted to be a lone wolf. But there were a lot of times where he included me on stuff, which gave me that little bit of finding myself. And then once chicks started taking hold of me and I started becoming athletic, I'm like, oh, okay. So I kind of melded into my own and I think once I did that and started doing my own stuff, I kind of got more respect for my brother. Not that he didn't respect me, just seemed like I was always a nuisance, for most of the time. But most of the time, no news was good news. We'd be in the same roof where everything was cool. He'd include me on things, I'd try to be around him. Sometimes he just wanted to be off with his friends when we were, he's older than me, so he wanted to be out with those guys.
Okay.
But not too bad. He didn't beat me up or anything like that. Made me do all the damn chores, but...
Yeah, in his interview, he said that, for lack of a better term, and he threw you under the bus a lot, kind of blamed you for shit that maybe he had done, whether it's burning the fucking house down or whatever.
God damn.
He admitted that he threw you under the bus.
Yeah.
Which, I thought it was funny at the time, but I felt bad for you, and I was like, man, that sucks.
Looking back on it, it's funny. It had such a rap, dude. That's when I became spiritual. I thought fucking Satan was after my ass, man. I swear to God. I walk in the kitchen, dark 30 in the mornings on a Sunday, and I get washing my hands, and I look over, and poof, garbage can explodes, dude. With hot paper fumes, it starts to cook in there, and I'm like, what? And my brother wasn't there. And then I said, oh, what would make this even more perfect? If my dad was awake and standing right behind me. And he was. Yeah. So then I never knew what happened until years later. We got older that he did it. Did the whole napkin, couldn't put it out. The trim on the stove. I'm like, I can't catch a break. I didn't do it. I swear it was Bobby. Sure it was. Fucking I did it.
So at some point, the military becomes appealing to you. What was that light switch in your head? Or what made you start to think about the military?
Guys I played football with had the delayed entry program, so it took me down to the recruiter. I originally wanted to be a combat pilot, after I watched Top Gun. I always wanted to serve my country in some aspect. Didn't have the grades for that. But so I went down there with him. We did the buddy system. Showed me all kinds of stuff. I took the 2 toggle tank thing. I could have been an ace tank driver if I wanted to. I guess because I can scratch with this hand and do this. But they showed me videos on airborne, 82nd, 101st. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Then they show me videos of Rangers. I'm like, okay. They think that could meld into maybe Special Forces or Delta or whatever, who's CIA, who knows? 20-year man. But that was it, taking me down there and seeing that. I go, man, that's what I want. I want dune buggies. I want jumping out of birds and weapons and fast roping, whatever. Being with a team, being with a unit. So that was it for me. And that was junior year of high school.
So you were hooked at that point. You had made up your mind that I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
And this is going to be my ticket to do what I want to do.
Counting down the days, butterflies started happening, MEPS, the whole 9. Yeah. It was cool. Hanging out with my brother towards those end days. That was cool. You know, partying with my brother. You know, drinking beer.
Other than your brother, what did the rest of your family think when you told them that, hey, I enlisted?
Really cool about it. Mom and Dad, we all sat at the table with the recruiter. You know, in those days, it was the Clinton era, I think. You know, don't ask, don't tell. So it was smooth, in and out. Recruiter, my dad just shook my hand and said, be a stand-up guy. Didn't show any emotion. Mom showed most of the emotion.
Okay.
But they knew I would do all right. Yeah, they were kind of like, all right, have a good one.
So what year do you go to boot camp?
1988, winter.
Okay.
Right
And
Georgia.
for you, where was boot camp?
Fort Benning, Georgia, Sand Hill.
Okay. So what was your enlistment paperwork like? Did you have the ability to pick an MOS or a
I
general
was 11B.
field?
11 Bravo was my MOS. My contract was Airborne Ranger. Halfway into basic training, the 10th Mountain came by, and I could have changed my MOS then and went with those guys in New York. Froze our balls off on those mountains. But tried to stay with it because I had some guys I was there with I grown fond of. Yeah, that was my contract.
Okay. So you finish boot camp. Thinking back to boot camp, what are your thoughts on just boot camp alone, Army boot camp at Fort Benning back then?
Loved it. Probably not then. Loved it, man. Loved every second of it. I loved the wet, the smell, the fatigue, the saltiness, the weapons, the carbon. I loved it all, man. I just loved the guys.
So after boot camp, then what happens?
So boot camp is airborne school after IT. So airborne school, we're there. It's I forget how long it was, 5 to whatever weeks. I got to do 4 jumps, night and day jumps. That was pretty cool. PT was a little bit level up, more rigorous.
Any injuries or anything?
None for me. Lost some buddies there. Got a couple buddies I lost there. Had some tobacco, some pogue. A couple fell out of runs. But, became good friends with a basic training enemy. That was kind of cool. Became like best buds.
No issues with being afraid of heights or anything like that?
Loved it. Man, I loved it. I mean, they opened that door and just like, it's no feeling like it.
Yeah.
No issue with heights. But you go on some towers and some things before you your jump, 5 jump chump is what they call you. You have to go on these like simulation towers, zip lines and things. And you're 40 feet above the ground, 30 feet above the ground. And so you're used to it.
Okay.
By then.
So you finish your basic jump school, and then what happens?
RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program. So we graduate and we get our jump wings, beat into your chest, like everybody knows. Then we have to sit in bleachers. And so we have our...
Let me pause you right there for a second. So that was a thing back then, right? So in today's military, like, pinning medals or rank or jump wings or whatever into people is, that's like hazing now. And they don't they don't let that stuff happen. But in our time in the service, that was common. It was ritual, right? That's just how it was. Right. Is they take the backing plates off of the pins and it goes
good bit
punctures your skin and you bleed a little, but it's all part of the deal.
Right. And if your pecs, if you have some slightly developed pecs, it's going to be all right. If your shit's all sunken in, it's going to hit that collarbone. But that was the thing. All
right. So you get pinned and then
bleachers.
You sit in the bleachers. Now let's talk about the berets for a second here, because this is kind of funny. Like, you were smarter than some of the other guys. So tell the viewers about back then, what color berets were what, who wore them, and who qualified for what berets back then, because things are way different today. But back then it was different. So why don't you explain that for a second?
So at a RIP school, you get to don your black beret at that point with your insignia after RIP school. But I'm sorry, I'm shooting ahead. Airborne school. So in airborne school, you get your maroon beret, still in the plastic. Put it in your sea bag if you want when you sit in the bleachers. But a lot of guys wet theirs up and shaved them up. So that was a thing. That was, but a lot of them going 82nd, 101st, and that was their thing. That was what they were going to be stuck with. But there was a lot of Rangers, fellow Rangers who were about to go to RIP school, who were putting those on as well. So regular airborne is maroon. My day, when I was in battalion, it was black berets. They didn't have the brown or tan or whatever it was now. So we're shuffling out with our C&D bags to the bleachers, everybody with a RIP school contracts waiting for the RIs, the ranger instructors in the cattle trucks, bad mamma jammas. Anyway, we don't even know what's going to befall us, right? So we're sitting there waiting. Well, this old timer comes up to me, old rank guy, and he says, "Hey, I wouldn't even wear that. I just don't even put it on your head." So I'm trying to tell people, "Hey, man, just put it away. Put it in your scrapbook, whatever you're going to have."
Like, don't try to be salty before your time.
Right. Like, wow.
Especially when you're about to get picked up in a cattle truck.
Some guys, "I earned this, blah, blah, blah." So they roll in and they just start hammering people wearing those damn things, start smacking them off their head, stepping on them on the ground, on the berets and whatever. "Don't put it on your head." Well, I'm just sitting there with just my bald head, so that was good. Kind of flew under the radar on that one. Me and my combat buddy Stats and Perot. So that was that. Now it's, they gave everybody black berets. The whole regular army, and tan to the Ranger Bat. In fact, I think, it was during the Tillman era. Gave him a... Yeah, but, I think they got to change the song now, right? Only one. Where's the green beret? Black beret.
Yeah, I don't even know now.
That picture's hanging in the airborne school hallway in the chow hall. The John Wayne.
Oh,
green beret.
Yeah. Okay, so you get picked up by, was it the Ranger cadre that picks you up, or was it, who picks you up?
The RIP School Indoctrination Program cadre.
Yeah.
In the cattle trucks.
Okay.
On the cattle trucks. All black, everything's dark. We're just going out, bumpity bump, out in the middle of wherever. And same thing, fall out, blah, 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 yelling and screaming. C&D bags going everywhere. Get to a RIP school, and that's when we started doing getting familiar with long road marches. Like, I'm talking 25-mile forest road marches, long nights, food deprivation, sleeping, fighting, sand pits, rappelling, and then we did our night jumps. Then that was good, and then we graduated from that. I mean, everything seemed like it was a blur, like flap, flap, flap. Done with that, it was great. So after RIP school, we flew into Fort Lewis, and we were going to sit in some battalion there, some regular battalion, 2nd and 60th or whatever. And then the guys from Ranger Battalion, 2nd Battalion, would come get us in trucks. So I got strep throat. So I didn't get to leave with the other 10 guys that I flew in with to battalion. I had to wait a week and basically just sitting in this barrack, coughing my brains out.
Gotcha.
Then I went to battalion, followed them, and got caught up with them. It was like I didn't miss a beat. You get hazed. I mean, you have to blend in with the culture. You gotta make sure you bound right in the field and make sure your quick loads are fast. I mean, you follow instructions. That way you stand out. But until then, you're pretty on the bottom of the shit pile until then.
Okay, so just to summarize here, you go through Ranger indoctrination, and then you're
Battalion.
Then you're on standby for a while, waiting to get slotted,
Right.
to move forward in the pipeline to the actual school itself,
Right.
Ranger school, right? So you get into Ranger school. Do you recognize any of these guys that are in the school? Like, did you go through RIP with them, or did you know any of them from Airborne, or
No.
it was just a whole new crew?
That just whole new guys. You know, only thing we had in common was our block PCs. No, first and third were there. A lot of people were there. People I've never seen. There were some regular unit soldiers there, I'd say, but they were airborne qualified. They weren't in battalions. I guess it's open for people.
Any international soldiers from like other countries?
In airborne school, there's Israelis. I remember that because I remember the Cuba-looking hats, Fidel Castro hats, standing out ranks. But I didn't see any in Ranger school. You know, swamp phase, desert phase. Nope. Maybe some Marines, I think.
So how'd you feel in Ranger school? Did you start settling into a groove and just kind of focus on yourself?
Yeah.
Or did they really, really stress like teamwork?
Well, the thing is, you have security in numbers, so you have a lot of people. So if you're basically working against major minuses and major pluses. Major pluses are like brownie points. Major minuses are bad things. Falling asleep at lean-to, boots, whatever. You did something wrong. Okay, you degraded or delegated, or you did something with your duty that you shouldn't have done, or something. You pissed somebody off. You get major minuses. So if you are a shitbagger, you're lacking in some way, whether it be physically or mentally, you can kind of blend in. So you have safety with your brothers. But for me, I didn't experience that. For me, I was pretty much independent by then. I knew my physical limitations, mentally, cold, tired, hungry. It all kind of bled into one. And I was young enough and hungry enough to kind of accept that. Like, it didn't throw me over the edge where I'm like, oh, this is so damn miserable. I just, day by day by day, week by week, it's over. Next thing you know, you're off to your next, whatever you're going to. Your familiar faces, some not familiar faces. You hit somebody in the airport, hey man, what's up? You know, stuff like that. But nothing long lasting until you get back to battalion.
Were any of the training evolutions in Ranger school difficult for you to the point where like it actually taxed you psychologically or physically to where you started thinking like maybe I bit off a little bit more than I could chew?
Well, you start downing a little bit. I was like, well, look at these guys. I can keep up. You know, that's what drives me. Plus, I think about home. I think about what my brothers might think. And I'm not going to be a reject. I'm not going to ring the damn bell, as it were. Swamp, probably in mud up to your knees. Especially when I got a wound on my left leg from a Black Hawk, sliding into a Black Hawk. It never dried. It just stayed wet. It just ached and turned purple. And I'd say swamp, because you're wet and you're tired and your feet are heavy. And
you're basically gator chow.
Yeah, thinking. They're more afraid
I
of
see
you.
those eyes over there.
Oh, yeah. Get hungry enough, I'm going to get one.
Okay. So you graduate Ranger school. Then what happens?
Back to battalion, PFC. And it's kind of cool. Kind of mellows out a little bit. You're not quite the yard monkey anymore. You're a step above. New yard monkeys are coming in. These new baldies are coming in, and they kind of take the weight off of you. And I wasn't pompous. I wasn't like some of the other guys that come. Because we had people that didn't have tabs, like Spec 4s, that you had to listen to them because they were Spec 4s, but they were treated like shit. I mean, like total bad. So that just enabled me to kind of fly more into the radar coming back. It was all good. It would have been great what started happening was, I started drinking. Started drinking a little bit. So back there, we were sitting there, back in battalion. I met some guys, my buddy Steve Hall, Dombrowski, some other dudes, Rusty Karn. That guy was awesome. Day-to-day life back in battalion training, maybe you have to delegate to some kids. Another level of PT, which is good. Mm-hmm. But then you start feeling stifled, like bored. I remember feeling like we're in these bodies, we're trained to do these things. We should exercise what we can do outside of these parameters of military.
Well, personally, I can relate to that. The issue with any unit where you've got, some advanced training is everyone's basically a stud at that point, right? And they're tip of the spear. And it's hard to just shut that down. Like, It doesn't work. So if you're not training and if you're not in combat or whatever, you can't just shut that down. At least, speaking for myself, idle hands are dangerous when you've had some training, right? Especially you mix in some alcohol, things like that. You're in the barracks, whatever, things get a little crazy. I know for my unit, we used to do some pretty stupid shit in our off time. We had some pretty tall barracks, and we had these nice pipe railings that happened to be the perfect anchor point for a rappel line.
Yeah.
So it was very common at 2 a.m. for us to be drunk, rappelling off the 4th story of our barracks building.
With a beer pinched in your teeth?
Yeah, just, doing stupid shit, right? But, it's like, that's what we did. We'd get drunk and we'd be low crawling, cammied up in the bushes, sneaking up on people, just doing stupid shit, right?
Right.
But
because the RPM level was
it's like it's I don't know what it is, but once you're a mediator, man, it's like you're not going back to grazing on grass.
No.
So yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah. We're getting a little off tangent here, but
start filling our shoes.
For those that don't know, basically, there's some boredom that sets in during downtime, right? Especially in garrison, and shenanigans happen.
Oh yeah.
So why don't you tell the viewers about the shenanigans that started going down?
Oh yeah. Well, all in order. So we go over there and go see Noriega and Rio Hato. We go through all that. I just want to make comments about that whole thing in my life. So the images and the visions and the things that are seen or we partook in were the first times that I got to see like actual corpses and carnage and things like that. But I was thinking about it during those times. There was something familiar about it. I wasn't too freaked out about it. Like maybe it was from my childhood. I was making a comparison the other day. Like it wasn't comfortable, but it was semi-familiar. Like it didn't freak me out.
So let's rewind for a second there. You're in garrison. You're in the 2nd 75th, Fort Lewis, Washington. How do you guys get word that there's a deployment pending? Like, how do you guys get notified? Do you get some kind of a warning order or something happens?
It's called RRF. It's like Ranger Ready Force. So they give you these beepers. So if you're out on the town, we just happen to be in garrison. But if you're out in the town, they paid you.
Okay.
And then, you got an hour or two to get back, pack C&D bags, get, fully dressed, and you're gone.
So how did Operation Just Cause go down? Like, how did you get notified that you guys are going to hop on a bird and you're...
Well, 10-hour flight. Well, after a few hours, you start talking to the older guys, and they're telling you what's going on. They're telling you what's about to happen. And, again...
so is everyone pumped at that point?
Yeah, man. Just like, okay. So fully auto-sensitive all the time, fully adrenalized all the time. Even during your cat nap, still adrenalized. This is it. You're ready. And, so after all the things that you see and do at that age, it kind of ripped the veil where, okay, the mortal coil, the thing between life and death is very, very delicate. Like the balance is very delicate. So then what happens is you hit another plateau where your old you, the innocence in you dissolves, but is replaced by something new. And then you can fill in the blank if it's good or bad. It's just replaced by something new after seeing and being with your brothers in a situation like that, right? Other than seeing on TV and magazines, it's hard to relate to others.
So what you guys did there was pretty rare. So realistically, there hadn't been large-scale combat jumps since World War II. There were a few in Vietnam, but not many. It was very far and few between where they're doing parachute jumps in Vietnam. But larger scale military operations, got to go back to World War II. So
Windy or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's Operation Market Garden, all these big operations in World War II. It had been a long time since a raiding force had jumped out of planes, literally.
Right.
And so you guys are, what were you in, C-130s? Or
C-130s.
Okay, so you guys are coming in, you're in theater. What's going through your mind at that time when you know, like, hey, I'm about to get into some shit, but I don't really know what I'm getting into?
You can smell the smell. It almost smells like Baja, California. That smelled like burning trash smell, but I didn't know what that was. The older guys on the bird knew what that was. But you can't hear anything. You just hear the bird. You can see some tracers go by. We're in a 7-bird, 8-bird formation. I forget what it was. You know we're taking fire, but it doesn't affect you. It's not like watching a movie of it where the camera pans to the guys on the ground, bop, 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 and then the camera pans to the guys about to jump out. It's not. It's just and dark and cold and windy, and maybe a few tracers going from ground to up. But your level of being freaked out hasn't. For me, it didn't change. It was, we're about to do this. This is not just a normal jump for a pay hurt, like just to get our hazard pay. This is where it's going to be.
So where did you end up in Panama? So once you clear the helo, where do you end up?
Well,
or not the helo, the C-130.
Hit the ground, boop, 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 grab our chutes, form up. Our sergeants had their chem lights out. Form up with him. We had one sergeant who broke his ankle on the jump, and he was riding around on a confiscated little mini bike. Form up, we rally up, jump in Humvees, and we just move out to Rio Hato. I remember a lot of things going down. I remember firefights. I remember images, screaming, but it wasn't like, so you see muzzle, you throw down muzzle fire to them, and then theirs stops, and then you advance, and then you look, and then you keep marching, so. But like I said, vaguely familiar, not too traumatic. We're there for about 60 days. Got to go downtown a few times, got to drink some beer and do other things.
So many years ago, you told me a story of going through Noriega's little home or palace or whatever you want to call it. And he had a bunch of VHS tapes or something like that. And you were telling me some story, like you guys were checking stuff out.
No, he had VHS tapes of like porn and animal stuff. He had a lot of cocaine. He had...
Any weapons?
A Tommy gun. He had one of those that somebody took. Jewelry, socks. I remember our people took his socks. But we never got out. We didn't get out of that stuff. Out of the Panama with that stuff. Somebody got snitched on. They had an online search and found all that stuff.
Okay. Do you know who actually took him into custody? No.
No, but I know that the door had already been blown off, so we weren't first contact. I know that.
Okay.
It's like it had already been.
Yeah.
We were like going through someone else's footprints, basically. What it seemed like. First and third are already there, doing whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So you do a couple months there. Anybody in your unit get hurt? Any casualties?
No, just a broken leg, broken ankle. Nope. Nobody in my, and I was an Alpha company, so nobody in our company.
Okay.
Nobody in Charlie, nobody Delta. Maybe first and third.
So what happens when that operation's over? What's next?
Back to Fort Lewis. Everybody feels like heroes. Everybody wants to just get drunk. Decompression a little bit. Stories.
And everyone's got to be feeling a little salty at that point, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, just like, whatever. Bring it on. Let's go take over another country, right? So things are good. Things are quiet. Everybody's prestigious. Everybody's feeling good. Everybody's feeling like men. Drinking increases. Mm-hmm. And I start trying to... See, I'm not going to say I'm trying to drown out anything that happened because I didn't feel traumatized, right? Years later, as I'm 50, I look back on the emotional aspect of it. That was somebody's brother, that's somebody's sister in some cases. Mm-hmm. Maybe you start thinking about that, but then you didn't think about that. You just think about super hypersensitive level and somebody's trying to take me from my parents or my family. So you don't think about that. So maybe subconsciously I was trying to numb, but kind of a victim of circumstance. I mean, we had a sergeant selling LSDs. We had... in Tillicum, Washington is everything you could want over there. So you want something new. So, beer analysis were few and far in between. So we didn't smoke a lot of weed. Wasn't like that. We just wanted other things, adrenaline rushes, things like that. So that's when that started happening.
So you start to see, after you guys come back from your deployment, you start to see like... maybe chinks in the armor, so to speak, of your unit, where people are starting to do shit that's like maybe not acceptable, or they're starting to branch out on the fringe a little bit.
Yeah, chinks in the armor. That's good because a lot of people came back, seemingly the same people, but everybody handles it differently. Everybody got affected differently. Now we had some guys that tried to kill a taxi cab driver to rob the armory. And they got taken away to the brig. We're all there. We've seen the MPs come. They snapped out. They made a contact in the mob in Canada. They were going to steal all the 203s and the 16s. And they had it all written out, ready to go. All they had to do was kill the cab driver. The guy in the back couldn't do it. He was just doing one of these maneuvers. they ran. They ran like little girls anyway. So they get busted. But the point is, people went about it differently because, like I said, it erased the innocence and replaced it with something new. Mm-hmm. Choose it if it's bad or good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. For me, it was good because I think my dad had some good bloodline. I mean, we had that ethnicity, we had that fortitude. I don't know. I can't even put it in words. I didn't feel like just caving in and going goofball. Mm-hmm. I felt like abusing my body a little bit, getting out of my headspace. And, but like I said, that's a growing ball of crap too, because you got to be careful with that. Because with youth comes cockiness, like I can control it. I can control anything. And then you start doing weirder things. Your appetite grows. You've changed.
So let's talk about the attitude in Ranger Battalion. Because based on prior conversations you and I have had, that back then there were some issues between maybe different platoons or different companies or whatnot. We also talked about the Pat Tillman incident and some things that you have some personal insight into that. Let's talk about the culture within the battalion at the time when you were there, and sort of how not everything's hunky-dory between maybe different companies or different platoons. So why don't you explain what you saw, what you experienced with just friction going on?
Okay, so once you come there, you already feel like a varsity team player because you've finished airborne at RIP school, you got your little 5 jumps, you come there. Little do you know that you haven't earned your way out of anything yet. So when you come there, you have to fly under the radar, be physical, be hyper. And you're in the field, bound behind that tree, roll, show out, be a freaking superstar, right? And then maybe after a while, it's like a freaking fraternity. You got Spec 4 Mafia, you got all these mother suckers, and I swear to God, dude, I ripped their freaking heads off if I didn't like my career at that time, because these little punk ass kids with ranks, want to peer you out, and that's what they want. See, I didn't really know that at the time. So when you get there as a culture of hazing, when you get there as a culture of you better step up because this is a new level. If you don't, you're just going to be pretty much shitbag secondhand ranger, right? And so that's what happens when you get there. Then you have the individuals who come there posturing, maybe they're big dudes, maybe they have some weightlifting experience, whatever their story is, martial art experience, they want to start bullying. And that, I've seen it many times before, that's a mistake because everybody's heard of fragging, and that's very real in the second bat where I was. You fly under the radar, you're a medium physical guy, or you're a freaking meathead who's bullying everybody around thinking that's just going to fly forever. I'm telling you, it won't, even with your own peeps. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, different companies, different buildings. Yeah, we look after each other. But at the end of the day, they really don't. If there's a fight, you're down for your company, right? But that's the culture there. You have to strive to get to a point where you've proven yourself, where you let the shitbags that come in take the limelight until you get to a point where now you're an alpha dog, right? You're knock out whatever push-up, run however many miles. No big deal. Cadre love you. Get a point, hey, go drive that deuce nav over here. These guys are going to beat their face, you know? Stuff like that. So that's the culture. So for me, when I heard about Tillman and started reading and watching that video of who he was in the same building I was, basically, and I seen the same guys because guys like that is what ruined my military career, basically.
And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, just like him. But I'm not saying anything bad about him. I respect for what he did. But I'm just saying it could be that way. When I see tapes of Tillman off to the side, Ranger buddies are here, and he's off in La La Land looking at the stars because he's super introverted and mysterious. I mean, you're separate. I mean, who knows? I wasn't there. But what I'm saying to you is I was with guys who thought they can come over there and just push their weight around. And you either take it, it's like prison. You know, lay down, take it, or join up.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? So,
So at some point, you start seeing some girl or something, you're dating some girl out, okay?
Yeah.
And
my buddy Steve, we met these girls at the Madigan Club.
Okay.
Started dating her. Lisa Lipscomb.
Okay. So had she dated any other Rangers?
They do. Prior, she wouldn't tell me, but I later found out because that's the code. And so right outside the Ranger Battalion is a place called Tillicum, and that's where everybody hooks up. We call them Rangerettes. Basically, you park your car there. It's like drive up. You park your car, they park their car. Boop, 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 boop. You guys go to the room or whatever, and that's how it's done. No questions asked. You got a high and tight. That's your pass, pretty much for everything around that area. So, yeah, she'd been with other Rangers. So I thought it, stupid.
Okay.
She's the one.
So let's talk about that fateful night, which kind of, put the coffin nail in your military career. So why don't you just sort of chronologically walk me through it? I mean, I've heard this story before, but let's talk about it because it ties into that attitude thing with other Rangers and things like that. And
yeah.
So why don't you tell me that story?
Okay, so this particular evening, we're off post, me and my buddy Steve. Been drinking most of the day, whiskey, beer, sitting around in our sweats, and our girlfriends were there most of the day. He had off-post housing. I didn't. I just acted like I did. I'd hang out with him. So he gets a call. We were actually asleep. It was about 9:30 at night. We had this drunken nap, right? So we get up. They're calling us from the Madigan NCO club that they're being harassed. They're fearful of their safety. So we jump up.
These are the girls?
These are our girlfriends.
Okay.
They went to the club. Hello, red flag. They're clubbing without us.
In hindsight, right? That's a clue, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're just having fun. Anyway, so get our clothes on, boopity boop, red alert, right? DEFCON 1. So I pick up my butterfly knife. It's on the table. Been playing with it all day, just doodly-doo. You never know. Throw it in my waistband. Go to the club. He's sitting in his car. I go to the bouncer, and I just say, hey, my girlfriend's in there. She's allergic to alcohol. I don't want to pay a cover charge. Can I go get her? Yeah, sure, no problem. So I go in there to get her. I see her, her and his girlfriend. And I'm like, hey, we're here to get you. He said, oh, no, just stay with me. Stay with us. We don't want to go. I said, well, I haven't paid. I'm in my sweats, and I just want to go. And at that point, and they were drunk. At that point, 3 Rangers from the Bravo company, Wilder, Silvery, and Flores. Wilder was a big meathead dude. He about the size of Tillman, just a big meathead. You can tell he's got some used to pushing his weight around, wearing his freaking abortion army issued prescription glasses, black frame. Grabs me and just starts shaking me around, like, hey, motherfucker, she's with us. We get the fuck out of here. Shoves me away. You know, I go lurching backwards. I'm like, huh? So I'm Captain America. Dun, 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 pow! I start boxing, dude. And I'm boxing. I'm doing pretty good. Flores keeps punching me from the side. And I remember punching these guys, keeping them away, and the crowd's over capacity. So everybody's kind of swaying and toing and froing. So Flores keeps sneaking these little shots in. So I turn around to the bar and I take out my knife. And I just brandished it. And I said, get the fuck back. And everybody backed off. I mean, the whole crowd was like salmon, right? Like, woo. Then they rushed back in. Get his knife, get him. So
to their detriment.
Right. And so Wilder, he's the biggest guy. He's coming in like freaking lurch. So he's coming in like roar. So parry the arms, give him the 4.5 to the sternum. And he backs off. Give Silvery one. Bap. He backs off. Flores keeps punching me. I finally caught him coming in. I got him. Wilder looks down. I remember watching it, and I remember his shirt. Dude was just, and he comes in again, big guy. Got him again. Then he just went down. He just went down, cried like a baby. Meanwhile, the crowd's doing this. Oh, I fall down, and I lose my blade. And the blade's right outside my hand. Well, somebody picked it up, and there's a crowd on top of me. And I remember someone trying to stick it under the crowd and try to get into me. So I grabbed the guy's hand, and I just remember pulling back his thumb as hard as I can. So I put in his thumb, and that was it. And then everybody's off, and then security has me like this. Oh, I'm sorry. Security has me by the neck, the redcoats they called them. Threw me in an ambulance. I was in the ambulance with Wilder, in the ambulance with Silvery. We're in there like they're like, you're an asshole, dude. And he's like sitting right there with stab wounds, and I'm sitting right here with my eye all screwed up. Oh yeah, someone grabbed me like this and gave me a cornea abrasion. So we're all in this ambulance together like, screw you and screw you. This guy's Anyway, so that happened.
So what's the fallout from that? So nobody dies, right?
Nobody dies. Almost. I mean, exploratory surgery on one guy. Poor Steve. He's in the car in the parking lot, probably like, what the fuck's going on?
This is Steve Hall?
Yeah.
Okay.
He followed the ambulance to the hospital.
Okay.
And I had a chance to escape. They didn't have my name. I could have split out right there. We talked about that later, but anyway.
But you didn't, because you're a good dude.
Right. I felt justified.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I did anything wrong.
So kind of a self-defense thing. What's the fallout from the Army?
So back at the unit, Article 15 right off the bat. They called me in. They restricted me to barracks. 2 days later, the MP showed up and shackled me, ankles and hands and waist, and took me to the brig to wait my court appearance for grievous bodily assault on these guys. And that's where I stayed for the next, would have been 53 years. Since the 2 years, did 14 months in a hard labor detention camp. But they did throw a lot of the charges out because they saw that I was defending myself, But they had to make an example out of me. The Marine recruiter called me from Santa Cruz and told me that. He's like, when you get out of there, you come see me. He's like, years ago, that probably wouldn't have been that bad, Boys fight. But they got to make an example out of you. So yeah, nobody died, but I'm sure they still got scars, and it was a drunken type of a stupor.
So,
Wasn't worth it.
where do you do your brig time at?
Fort Lewis, Washington.
Okay. So you do 14 months and a 2-year sentence?
Yeah. If it had been any more than 2 years, they would have sent me to Fort Leavenworth.
And they bust you down to private?
E nothing.
E,
E invisible.
E0. How was your time in the brig? How were you treated by correctional staff?
Funny. So I get in there, I got a patch of mags, I got the cornea abrasion, and I come in there, and there's this little Air Force guy, and little mini-mite dude, little puck, and he's trying to jump bad, and I'm not even in the mood, and I'm sitting there shackled, and he's like, "You understand me?" And he's yelling. I'm just looking right through him. I just want to jump into his throat so bad, because at this point I'm screwed, right? I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm all this, and then he was like, "Hey man, it's gonna be okay. Just step over here. Are you hungry?" It was smooth out to the, it was really, there was no assholes there. There was a few assholes there. There was a guy, they come and go. We are there, Air Force, Marines, black market, sergeants, captains, people stripped, busted. They're all in there. Everybody with their stories. You got pods, people in bays. You got solitary. So we had a few bad apples. We had this real big black guy come in there. He was a rapist in the Air Force. Come in the pod from a solitaire to shave every morning, talking crap to everybody. Me and him got into it. Whipped the shit out of him pretty good. He got a few licks in. Put me in solitaire. Ruined my parole package. Yeah, I had to retake all these classes again and everything just to get out.
So overall?
Good. Hard work.
Overall, not too bad?
Not too bad. You're locked up.
Yeah.
It's up at 8, 7, 36, sometimes 5, and you're down at 9:30. Full display on your rack, no talking, maybe ping pong, no weights, just broomsticks and towels. And that's it, man. And that's where you rot. But everything's decorum. Dress right dress. You got a morning formation, you got to shave.
Because it's still the military.
Right.
They still have to have structure and discipline, right?
Yep.
Any gang activity in the brig at all or anything? No?
Zero.
Any cliques? Anything weird like that? No?
No homo stuff, no cliques, nothing. Everybody's all individuals, just dreading being there.
Did you have an attorney or anyone counsel working on your behalf at all? Like working on your packet, trying to get you out of there?
Major Gordon in the Army, he was the guy. He generally cared. He helped me develop a package after I got denied parole the first time. He said, "Take some classes, dude. That's what you want to do. Have a letter from your house saying you got a job, and residence, all this." And it worked. Yeah, he thought it was screwed up. He's an old school Army guy, and he was like, "Psh, screwed up, dude." He's like, "That shouldn't happen to you." But shouldn't have been there.
Well, that really sucks, man, to go from being an apex predator to all of a sudden in the fucking brig.
Yeah.
That sucks. So you get out of the brig after 14 months.
Yeah.
And then what do they tell you? What does the Army tell you?
They debrief me. They go over some things in battalion that I'm not supposed to talk about, blah, 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 locations, blah, blah, blah. That goes down. They offer me some VA help. That goes down. They give me my cash. I've been building up before pre-trial. I got 2,500 smackers in my wallet, bus ticket. Went down to JAG, got my TA-50 turned in, got all my stuff sent to supply. Ready to go, ready to jump on a bus. Saw an old girlfriend. Went to go see her. And, dude, I was so pure in my system. In the brig, you're pure. You just eat powdered whatever, and eggs and meat. And so we go to her house, and she buys me a 40 dog or some Old English.
Oh, Jesus.
That much, dude, I was spending drunk.
Yeah.
That much, I was useless. She was like,
damn.
She wasn't too happy. But I had a bus to catch the next morning. Like, later. Never to be seen again.
So, do you talk to your brother about this, Robert? How does your family know about what happened to you? Like, Like, because all of a sudden, I mean, did you tell them, like, hey, I got fucked up, I'm in the fucking brig or whatever? Like, did anybody in your family know that you were out of Ranger Battalion and doing time in the brig?
Well, my parents, because I had a residence with them, and I called my parents when I could get phone calls and talked to them and cried on the phone and you know, just wanted to see them and hurt and devastated and depressed. And the whole world was over for me because, you know, you're ripping me out of something I loved. You know, it's like never going to be the same. So I talked to my parents a lot. They didn't give me a lot of counsel, like, oh, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. They were just there for me. And that's what I appreciated most, just them being there and, oh, son, that sucks. I just come home and like that. Me and my brother didn't talk that too much about it, I'm sure, along the way, because when I first got together with Jessica, it was like, we didn't talk that much because he didn't like the toxic environment that I was in and the toxic person that I had become. He didn't like it. So I didn't really ask him for a lot of counsel. Like I would if I just thought I could just pick myself up by the bootstraps and just and just be slowly, quietly depressed and not relay it to anybody. But that got old over time. But everybody was just there for me. You know, even my brother was there for me, but we didn't talk about the deep issues. Now we can, as we're older. It's funny, now that we're older and all that other crap's out of the way, and image and persona and all that, and as we get older and wise, now we can talk freely, right? But going through it, I didn't have the right questions formulated. I didn't know what to say. Hey, I need help. I mean, I didn't know I needed help. I just was like rambling through life. And I got a problem. No, I don't. And I need a mentor. No, I don't. Or, you know, but no.
So you come home, and I say home loosely, but you come to Santa Cruz, right? So your parents were living in Santa Cruz, at least, you know, that's when I met you. And that had to be, what, like 1990 maybe?
No, the end of 91.
Was it 91?
92, yeah. Yeah, my 21st birthday party.
Okay.
Remember that? So that was 91.
Okay. So I'm working at Harmony Foods, working with your old man, and he tells me, he goes, hey, my boy Nathan's coming home from the Army. He's your age. You'll like him. It's like, roger that. So you showed up, and then instantly we were like brothers from another mother. Like, we hit it off pretty good.
It was amazing.
Yeah. And like, you know, your family had pretty much adopted me at that point anyway.
Yeah. There's something very familiar about you, you know, something unspoken.
Yeah. So we hit it off pretty good. We had a good time. We went to a lot of parties together and enjoyed our
Would you have thought where we'd be at today?
Enjoyed our youth together. Yeah. Yeah, we had some good times.
Yeah.
So coming out of the Army, you're back home. You get a job at Harmony Foods, same place that I'm working, same place your dad was working at. And you just start assimilating to civilian life again after the Army. How was that? I mean, that's got to be weird, going from being in the brig, coming out of Ranger Battalion, and all the stuff that you had done, your deployment, everything, and now here you are,
right?
Just kind of going through the motions like a civilian drone, doing your thing, trying to, like, you know, pick up the pieces after the Army.
Yeah, and that's the thing, going through the motions, because I think I was pretending when I got out. I was pretending to be a civilian. I didn't know what that felt like. Even though I wasn't in that long, I adapted to the culture. I wanted the military so bad, and I loved it so much that it was like, coming out, I was just faking it. Oh, go to work, boop-de-boop. Have some beer after work, boop-de-boop. Eat, let's go to the beach, you know. But all inside was never peace. It was never serenity. It was hunger and thirst and need and loss and like, what the hell? Dude, what do I do now? The whole chapter, do I have a family? What do I do? Do I just give up? Or, okay, I'll just traipse through it, you know? So coming out of it was really hard, especially the way I came out of it. That pain never ceased. It was always intense. What happened with me, I learned how to callus up and build layers of skin against it, where it was there, but now I know how to acclimate to society, where here's my inner happiness coming out again. You can't keep that fire from burning. Yeah, I got this crap in this box on the shelf now. It sucks, it hurts. But now I'm gonna kind of thicken the space where it's over there now over time and learn how to deal with the pain. Pain didn't go away. The loss it sucked bad.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I learned a lot.
It's like almost, overnight you have the rug yanked out from underneath your feet.
Yeah.
And it's all gone.
Buddies, friends.
All gone.
No Facebook, no black book. Here I am in Santa Cruz at the beach. Woohoo. The guy I met you, gave me some brotherhood, some camaraderie. Johnny and all them dudes and Blake, and it felt good, man. I mean, real good.
Different kind of brotherhood. And I mean, to pass the time, what do? We drank, we played softball.
Yeah.
Played a lot of softball, right?
Some good games.
Going through the normalcy of just trying to be social with people and well, you were a great influence for me because a lot of the military stories that you had, I remember we'd just sit there and at lunch, sitting on a little bench, and I'd have my orange juice and my blueberry muffin, and we'd look out into that big field on Swift Street, and you'd be like, "Oh, see that? You could hide right there, and you could do a sniper blind over there." And we're just talking about
our range card out.
Yeah, so that motivated me, and I was kind of like, "Oh man," because I had all these visions in my head, like, "Oh man, it would be so cool to go do this and that and the other." So you were very instrumental in me going to the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And I told your brother the same thing. He was too, although indirectly. You were more like a direct influence. He was more indirect.
Right. And did you get how I didn't bash the military when I got out?
No.
Like some people do?
No. And I thought that was very interesting because, you had such a positive experience up to a point and then an extremely negative experience. And you finished your military career on a very sour note. But yet I never got the sense that you were bitter about it. You were hurt inside and I could tell, but it was because the thing that you loved to do had been taken from you, I talked about the theme in the beginning of this video. Sometimes fucking bad things happen to good people.
Right.
And you fell into that category, You kind of stepped on a fucking landmine on that one.
I learned a lot from that, though.
Yeah. A lot of resiliency. A lot of inner perspective. But once again, it just shows that you have this indomitable spirit, and your spirit cannot be broken. And I think that's something that the viewers need to understand is when bad things happen to good people, and it's you, that don't let it fucking break you.
Right.
Don't let it break you.
And don't tell yourself, I wasn't born with it. You are. It's just, you have to find it. Like, okay, physical pain, yeah. Okay, emotional pain, that sucks. Being let down, yeah. Smacked, that all sucks. But having your spirit stay alive, because storms are going to pass, that cloud's going to move away. And there's going to be brightness. That's going to hurt. But put it on a box over there. Use those skills, perpetuate yourself forward. Better, not bitter, And
yeah, and that's tough. In the moment, if you're suffering, if you're struggling, and it could be anything in life, right? It could be a failed relationship. It could be, a death of a child. It could be, a car wreck. It could be whatever, injury or whatever. It could be all these things, or like your incident in the military, where all of a sudden you go from hero to fucking zero in one night. It's tough to, in the moment when you're in the pain and in the suffering and you're in the moment experiencing all that stuff, to have the resiliency to not quit, to move forward and to have a future vision somehow. I heard you say earlier today, when we were pouring coffee, we were talking about your son, Nathan, and you mentioned, doing the next best thing, the next right thing, that's kind of right out of AA, right?
Yeah.
It's doing the next best thing. And if people could have a simple philosophy like that, to wake up every day and just be like, all right, so my life sucks, but today I'm going to do the next best thing. That's all I can do, one day at a time.
The next step right now is put one foot in that pant leg and then put the other one in. And then move forward. And that sometimes that boils down to just that first step.
Yeah, or just getting out of bed. For some people, if they're suffering from depression, anxiety, whatever it may be, just having the discipline and the inner willpower to, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to be productive.
And hang on, because life will drop off. It may seem tenuous. Like, it's weird. I compare it, like me and my son, Noah, will tussle with, like, say, a towel or a rag. And I'll hold my arm up and he'll hold tension. And he'll say, and he's not going to give up, and I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to wait for his muscles to tire out. And then, I'll get that. That's kind of how I think about life. Hang on there, hang in there. Nathan's doing the same thing right now. Took him a while, but he's doing it. He's doing the next. The next thing that's, I'm not trying to say profitable, beneficial. Do the next beneficial thing to your castle, your environment, whether it be residence, money, and I think that'll keep you grounded, no matter what you're going through. The drugs, alcohol, the depression, it's going to help you just, because there's another side. There's other people that are going to come in your life. There's new networking to be had. You don't have a crystal ball, but if you did, you say, 2 years from now, that's going to happen? Yeah,
Yeah. So on that note, Matthew McConaughey is really big on what he calls delayed gratification, or like delayed satisfaction, where you put in the work here knowing full well that you're not going to recoup the rewards on that until way later down the road here. And sometimes in my life I think about that and it's like, I've had a lot of that in my life where I've worked really hard for something for maybe years with no tangible result, but then ultimately it paid off. And then I get the reward later, and it's that delayed gratification where it's like,
And the reward is so rich.
Yes.
It's not a paper thin reward. It's
deep.
Meaty,
It's deep, it's fleshed out, and it's the swell of sort of, for lack of a better term, contentness is much richer and it's more satisfying.
It is like a barrier.
Yes, like a fine wine that finally gets to that point and you're like, all right. So for you get out of the Army, you're working at Harmony Foods, I bounce on you and I go to the Marine Corps. Deuces, I'm out.
Yeah.
So now we're talking 92. You had met Jessica, and you end up in a relationship with Jessica, and you have your son Nathan.
Yeah.
Right? So why don't you talk to me about like your initial impressions of being a father for the first time at a relatively young age?
I'm very scared. So she had a bladder infection. We went down to get a urinalysis and you're going to have a baby. So immediately I'm going to take care of responsibility. That's what my dad taught me, right? I went through the military, kind of slowing down my partying days. Not so much. I think I need to, but it's slowly losing its luster. Maybe this is good, take care of business. I mean, it's my responsibility. I got to do that. My biggest fear was telling my parents, because they would have said, told you so. Everybody said, wait till you're 30, wait till you're 30. So she's pregnant, dating for a while. We moved into a house, renting rooms from people, whatever. Nathan's born, beautiful boy. Different. I felt like I was playing another role. I didn't know how to be a father. I knew what a father should do. Because we took care of Noel and Aaron sometimes growing up. I knew how to change diapers. I'd spit up and make macaroni and cheese and, all these things, what to look for. I had the Kaiser handbook and, colds, fevers, scratches, rashes, whatever.
Well, from your childhood, is it fair to say that you knew what a father shouldn't be?
Yeah.
Like some of the things that your dad did to you and Bobby, some bad examples I mean, by default, you knew, well, I don't want to be like that, right? Like I need to be like this. This is how
And
it should
that
be.
was never even a thought. I was not even born from that page, it seems. I have rage. I have some anger. As I'm 50, I've learned to tame the beast, but I just wasn't cut from that stone where I'm going to not spare the rod, right? That's not me. I mean, I don't think it's... I can't look at my loved one's eyes and do that.
I don't think it's really any of your siblings. I mean, I don't think anyone really took after your dad in that way.
No, it's just not something. So I knew that's what I didn't want to do, but it was never like I had to fight it off. Like, I just feel like smacking it. It was never there. I always felt like reasoning. But hey, if you push me to a point, I'll give you a little swat on the pamper. If you hit this kid over the head with a truck, something like that. But so yeah, there were times where I would purposely say, I'm going to do the opposite of what my dad's going to do in this situation during that long fatherhood period, right? You come to those challenges where you look in the mirror and like, damn, what would my father do? Okay, well, he would react this way. Let me try to react this way. So it was kind of a guideline in a negative aspect, kind of a weird thing. But fatherhood was, I adopted to it well. I acted like a father at first. I went through the motions and then wasn't too extremely happy where I was, not with my son, just wasn't ready to be committed at that level. In the beginning, it was good, hot and cold with Jessica, but then it turned out to be kind of a drag after a while where we're just raising a kid and there's no joy. Even at 20-something, you still have an idea what joy is, even though I can't fully imagine what joy is like I do now, or what you'll accept and what you won't accept. You don't see that. So you just muddle through, and you enjoy. So
eventually, you're happy raising your son, but your relationship with Jessica kind of sours a little bit.
Just kind of there. And it started to sour. I think it was a group effort with her detachment, and then I just started detaching, and I started drinking a little bit.
So
a lot of it.
Alcohol, self-medicating a bit, maybe?
Yeah, just wanted my own separate headspace. I didn't want to be worried about her slights, her unhappinesses, whether it involved me or not. Just didn't want to be part of it anymore. It's like, see, we got kids. Why is everything a freaking battle and a complaint, It wasn't all the time. There were some good times. But I just didn't really know how to loosen up, right? And with my spiritual belief growing and then my alcohol abuse growing, it was kind of one in the hand of the same. I'm praying to God, but I'm drinking and I want an answer and I want out and should I put up with this? And is it me? And it's going to come to a hilt. I just knew it. I knew the angel that protects Nathan Parham is going to end this someday. I just need to hold on. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but it was bound to happen. I mean, she's happier and I am 100% happier. She's the mother of my children. I always have love for her somewhere. I mean, I don't hate her at all. There's a different love, right? Don't wish her harm. Now we have a talking relationship sometimes. When we get on the phone, it's civil. There's no more anymore, you know what I'm saying? Which is a sigh of relief. We don't have to deal with each other much anymore. But, it wasn't the relationship I'd wanted, but you kind of, like I said, I was thick-skinned, military vet, went through a hard childhood. Did I subconsciously want that abusive relationship? Who knows? I'm not freaking a psychiatrist. I would think that I didn't want that. Oh, you marry your mother. Bleh. Well, my mother wasn't like that.
Yeah.
So who knows? But the point is, could have been better. But we have two beautiful kids, Rebecca and Nathan. And watching him go through it now, just, hey, don't do that. I did that. Don't do that. Go that way. So maybe there is a silver lining to that. But
well, yeah. I mean, if anything, even though maybe your relationship with her wasn't perfect, you've got two beautiful children that came out of it. And, you're a grandfather now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's different.
Yeah, so that all kind of crumbled and collapsed 2010, 2011. Nathan was just about to get out of high school. He had already had his own baby coming with his girlfriend. And Rebecca's just in tow. Poor thing. I mean, she's just like caught in between, staying with her mom. And so the very end times there, I caught a case. It was a DV case, but with no substance. I mean, and everybody knew there was no domestic violence. I mean, she even called drinking, yelling, arguing. And that was pretty much the last time I was at home, 2010, 2011. She already sent me the divorce papers. It was just pretty much over. It was crumbling and arguing and yelling and fighting. But she had blocked the doorway one night, and I had grabbed her wrist and moved her out of the way. Exaggerate, like, get your ass out of my way. Bam, I was being stupid about, flamboyant almost about it. And that was it. And then she called and said he never hurt me. No one got hurt, but they didn't care. So you have to go through the classes and whatnot, whatever. So that kind of sucked.
Were you still drinking a lot at that point?
Still drinking, probably even more now, because now I'm sad that my marriage is over. We got to move out of this house. Probably foreclose. Would like to have done a short sale, but I was so depressed that, nobody, kids are in tow. Nathan's kind of doing his thing. And job coming to an end, a good job. So things are collapsing, things are crumbling down, but there's some weird relief deep inside me knowing that now that it's over, right? Should have handled it better, but it's coming to an end. It's going to be a distinguishable line between the muck where I can maybe find my own identity someday,
So that's interesting you say that. So from like a psychological standpoint, your marriage has become a train wreck. You've got some kids, you're drinking, you catch a domestic violence case. So you're starting to kind of go lower and lower, and you're kind of hitting rock bottom a little bit.
Right.
Housing situations in question here. But all of a sudden you start to feel like relief, maybe, like
even after all that,
like if you hit that low point, you're like, well, you can only go up from here, right?
Yeah, because I was in the basement, then I had a roto hammer and I dug a hole through the concrete, and then I had a shovel and I dug 10 feet down under the basement. So now I'm as low as I can get. So yeah, relief does come in. Now you're just waiting for an angel. Now you're just waiting for a breath of light, anything. Let me just keep my feelers out. Let me keep trying to get up and shave and go get coffee at Starbucks. Let me keep trying to think that there's some light here. Everything's over. That's how I felt. Everything's over. Was it me? Did I do it? Did I ruin self-sabotage? Was it her? Everybody's telling me this, and everybody said I should have done this all these years, but they were just here for moments of time. And, you're hearing all these things from friends you had, and then you don't have because of her. Was it from her? Was it because of me? I was being a wuss all these years. All these things are going through, right?
A lot of drama there. And
you just want to rip off your skin and the gorilla to come out and just be like Super Saiyan 5. All right, it's time for me now. I'm no more. It's me. It's my time. But I still wasn't there, living in that freaking crack house after my divorce. Things going astray, living in this house, and then things were bad, and drinking, no money. And then didn't see the light that was coming. There was a big light that was coming. Big, bright light.
Okay, so you kind of hit, a low point.
Yeah.
You're slowly just going down and down and down to the point where, things aren't looking good. But in typical Nathan fashion, you have this indomitable spirit.
Right.
And
didn't feel like ending it. Maybe before I felt a little depressed where, I did some things, but I never really wanted to die. It never came into my mind.
So at no point in time did you seriously consider suicide?
There was a time when, I think it was 2010, 2011, Nathan was home, and I had cut myself pretty deep, and I was drunk, and I didn't want to die. I wanted to hurt myself, but didn't want to die. And Nathan was there and traumatized the shit out of him. He drove me to the hospital, and one of those regrets, right? But never did I think I wanted to actually die. I just was tired of myself and tired of these situations that I'm in, seems my whole life. I'm always on the losing team, right? Somehow I'm feeling less than. So, is it me? Is it others? I don't know. So, but never did I want to die. As people would be suicidal, I was not afraid to die. I just knew where my soul might go, and that scared the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. Maybe if I didn't have that belief, maybe I'd felt different.
So let's talk about, you mentioned soul. Let's talk about spirituality. So at some point, I reconnect with you. I hadn't talked to you, hadn't seen you in, man, I don't know, a long time.
I think Tracy found you.
Yeah, so she reached out.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I lost contact with you for many, many years. And so we reconnect. And at the time you were living in Discovery Bay, and you guys had a nice house out there you were renting. Your little sister, Noelle, was living there. Mm-hmm. So I go to visit, and we reconnect. And I could see that you were kind of in transition in your life.
Yeah.
And I'll use that word loosely. You were kind of in between planes, if you will.
Yeah.
You were kind of coming out of one bad situation with your ex-wife, and you were starting to somewhat get a control on alcohol. But the demons were still there.
Yep.
And it was, Tracy was in your life, and for the viewers, we'd known Tracy since we met.
Early 90s.
Yeah, early 90s, since, well, for me, I met her when I met Jessica around the same time frame. So you reconnect with Tracy. Mm-hmm. I reconnect with you and Tracy.
Yeah.
And I go out and visit you in Discovery Bay. And I see a Nathan that's kind of in turmoil. And on one hand, you're doing really well in some areas, and then I'm kind of seeing other sides of you where I'm thinking, man, he's fighting it.
Yep.
Like he's fighting the demons right now. And I was a little worried about you. And then I remember one day I get the call, and I think it was Tracy that called me, and she goes, I don't know what to do. Nathan's off the wagon. He drank, and he's doing this, that, and the other. And I don't know, there was some kind of, I guess you had gotten really emotional and drank a bunch. And everything kind of came to a head, and there was drama between you and Noelle and all this crazy stuff. So coming out of that, essentially you guys end up moving out of that house.
Yep.
And let's talk about the next chapter where essentially you start to turn it around with Tracy.
Yeah.
And let's tie that into your sort of spirituality and how you start to be a man of faith.
Okay.
And start to overcome some of these demons.
So I think it's important to know. I just go back. So after I'm living in a house and divorced, and the house is gone and everything like that, I had lost contact with Tracy for 6 to 9 months. Jessica forbade her from contacting me at all. So I totally lost. Plus I'm a drinking stupor. I lost her information. I don't even have a flip phone, right? So I'm in the house, and I finally got like a little cheapy. I think she got me my first. I had a phone, regardless. A little flip phone. My phone rings, and it's Tracy, living in this house. And I'm like, Tracy? She's like, yeah, Nathan? I'm like, yeah, what the hell? Well, I guess Noah was in the back as a baby flipping through her phone, somehow found my contact and rang my phone or texted me or something. Acknowledged the fact that there was a communication now. And that's how Tracy got back into my life when I was living at that bad house. And I kind of told her the skinny what was happening. She's like, what? Oh my God. I'm like, yeah, it's done. There's a big climactic ending and all that stuff. So we started having coffee and dating, and she really saved my life, man. She pulled me out. I mean, you know, like I said, that shoot of Nathan Parham was starting to grow, but wasn't getting fed and going down. She was like, she came in and basically got me to feel like, okay, I can have a life after that. You know, just because I'm middle-aged, I mean, it's not the end of the world. So we started hanging out and doing whatever and started dating, and, you know, one thing led to another. And got married in 2012. Longtime friends. And finally we turned that chapter and just made it permanent, you know.
So you mentioned Noah. So for the viewers, Noah was her son from a prior relationship.
Yep.
I was there for your guys' wedding, which is pretty cool.
He was only, when we first got together, he was 3 or 4 years old. Yep, you were there at our wedding in 2012.
So you, at one point, make the decision that you want Noah to be your son.
Right.
And so I remember you came to me and you're like, hey, you know, I want to adopt him. I need these reference letters, and I did whatever I could to help you out. So you being the great father that you are, you adopt Noah as your son.
I fell in love with him when I first, it wasn't even like the fact that it was Tracy's kid I got to get along with. I mean, I literally felt a kindred to him. I still do. It's like, yeah, it was blood immediately in my mind.
Okay.
And so in 2016, we made it official, which was awesome because I have 2 other awesome kids. Yeah, and then, you know, Noah just thinks the world of Nathan and Rebecca, and, you know, it's kind of cool, the extended family situation. So living with Tracy now in Bixler, he came and saw me, still battling that depression because of loss. Not that I'm not happy in my new life. It's, man, what a kick in the balls. I mean, 20 years of familiarity gone. You feel like you've lost everything. I mean, I did. Good job. I mean, cars and my little motorcycle and the house.
But something else happened that I want to talk about, because I didn't talk about this with your brother during my interview with Robert. Let's talk about your parents and what happened to them, because I think it's worth talking about and not brushing it under the rug and ignoring it.
2001. Yeah, it was my first year at Home Depot. I just left the construction trades, and I wasn't talking to them. My mom had this fight with Jessica. They came down to our place, and my mom had a fight with Jessica, and my dad called Jessica a bitch and all this stuff, and it just blew up, and I was crying. There was a rift, and so I didn't talk to him for years. And then I get a call in 2001 from Aaron's ex-girlfriend, my younger brother Aaron, doing really good, by the way, in Arkansas. Hard-working dude, man. I love that guy. Parents are dead. They're bringing them out on carts with sheets over them. They've been shot. And I'm like, what? Get the hell out of here. Immediately, I had quit drinking for 2 years at that point. Immediately jump in the car, go to the liquor store, and then on my way to Napa. The whole time I'm on the phone with my uncle, Jerry, who was a homicide detective then. I think he's retired now. Asking him, I need to see my parents. He's no. I said, I basically strong-armed him to let me go to the mortuary and go in the back room, and got to stand between them on the slabs, you know, gunshot, you know, the head wounds. And again, just like my military experience, Rio Hato, just numb, familiar, not shocked, like, what's wrong with me? This sucks, this is sad, but somehow expected.
Well, it's a way of coping, right? Yeah. It's a way of like compartmentalizing, or, you know, I mean.
It's too much, it's too bright.
Clearly you've been desensitized with your childhood military experience to the point where, you know, I think we're like the same in that way, in that, you know, a lot of stuff like that doesn't bother me, but, you know, my military career, law enforcement, whatever. there are times where I have let stuff like that bother me, but generally I'm like you. I just take it in and, I eat it and process it and move on.
Now, I can let it out if I want. I mean, years after the fact, I remember Nathan came to me when he was a little kid, about 8, and he caught me in the living room kind of being sad, and he's like, I know you miss your parents. He called them my parents. He didn't call them grandparents because we didn't have that relationship. He barely got to see him. So, so that whole period was tough. So, I had to go down to Napa, and me, my brother Bobby, and Noel Aaron, we had to clean out their place. And they didn't send a bio team over there. Everything was just how it was. It was grisly.
So how did you find out, what actually happened?
When not from the newspaper, but when the coroner's report came out, at first they was talking about a pact, like my mom was on board with it, whatnot. But basically my brother Aaron was there the night before. He was seeing them. He lived right down the street. He was seeing them and hanging out with them, watching tapes or whatever. Meanwhile, my dad's job was on the fritz. They were barely paying their rent. So my brother went and spent the night watching movies with him and then went home. And my dad let him borrow some VHS tapes. Said, I want these back in the morning. So Aaron shows up the next day. Door's locked. There's a note. Said, we're gone. Call 911. Have the county dispose of our bodies. And that's when he found out. So
so do you think it was was there something going on with your mom? Was she sick at that time?
No, I read the autopsy report. She had an appendicitis that was removed. I think her thyroid was removed, something like that, but nothing, no.
So, I'm going to ask you to speculate here. Do you think it was a mutually agreed on thing, or do you think it was a murder-suicide?
It was murder-suicide. It took me a while to formulate that feeling. But I never thought my mom would agree to that crap because she was sleeping soundly. Her blood pressure was fine at the time of death. There was no anxiety level. So no, she trusted my dad.
Man, that's a tough thing to wrap your head around. Your dad killing your mom and then,
twice.
Self-inflicted himself. That's tough. So
maybe he believed that they're going to walk Valhalla together. I don't freaking know.
So how does that make you feel? Talk to me about you're standing between their bodies and what's going through your head right then. Earlier you said, I'm not surprised. You weren't shocked.
No. I think my dad was going down. I felt the regret of me being out of their lives at that point didn't really hit home until later. That was a very sickening pill to swallow. Maybe I could have had an influence. Maybe I had time, to get down there and do something about it and just swallow some crow and, whatever. But at the end of the day, I started realizing that, my dad had been running for a long time. He'd been running from a lot of things. And, taking my mom sucked. But, I think he didn't have any fear. He didn't have any fear of the other side. He didn't have any fear of another man. He didn't have any fear of going to hell. He shot him. My dad was just that way. Maybe he was ignorant to some things about humanity. I think he was just like a cowboy, right? I'm gonna fucking kill my wife and blow my head off. It's because I've hit my limit. I hit a wall. I have no job. I got no way to pay the rent. That's that. Time to check out. I mean, normal thinking people don't do that, right?
No, but having investigated cases similar to that in my law enforcement career, there are themes that come about in these situations, and usually it's financial, some kind of stressors, whether it's financial stress, whether it's infidelity in a marriage, or there's stressors that tend to cause
Life
that.
Lost.
Yeah, there's or maybe a terminal disease like cancer, stage 4 cancer, something like that. There are things that sort of precipitate this murder or suicide kind of thing. I'm with you. I don't think your mom was on board with it. But knowing your dad, that's almost like his way. It's like, in a way,
you're coming with me.
He's still in charge.
Right.
Psychologically,
right.
It's like he's making a conscious decision. He's still controlling the situation to the very fraction of a second
Exactly.
to the very end. He's going to ride that plane into the ground, and he did it his way.
Yeah.
And sounds like, unfortunately, your mom was a victim in that.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you this, because I didn't talk to your brother about this. I went on a ride along with him years ago, and we're on patrol, and I'm talking with him, and this is like maybe 2009. I'm just starting to get to know your brother again, because we had gone separate ways, just like you and I had gone separate ways. So I'm kind of reconnecting with your brother, and I wasn't tight with him like I was with you,
Right.
because he was in the service. So I didn't know him that well. I would only know your brother from when he would come home on leave, and then we'd spend some time together. So
I love how it's evolving now, though.
Yeah, so I didn't really know Robert that well, but I did know him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hook up with him at his agency, and he's on patrol, working the night shift, and we're just chit-chatting, and I'm starting to fill in the gaps, right? I'm starting to like ask him questions about his life, your parents, just trying to fill in the gaps, because I've been out of the relationship for so many years, right? I was disconnected from your parents. I was disconnected from your siblings. So he tells me that they were dead. I was like, oh shit, what happened? And he tells me, it's probably fucking murder, suicide. My dad, how he was. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But then he tells me something interesting. He tells me that he did not tell his coworkers that.
Right.
He tells his coworkers something different. I want to say he told his coworkers like, they died in a car wreck or something like that, right? So that's very interesting, because it tells me that he's sort of embarrassed of that. Like that's
I think it would hurt his career.
That's a stain on the fabric of Robert Parham somehow, even though your dad's behavior is not a direct reflection of him at all, but him being in law enforcement, maybe he was thinking like, maybe that shows that
psychological
maybe I'm psychologically, I've got some mental health issues, and so therefore, you give me a badge and a gun, I shouldn't have mental health issues. So I
think it's twofold.
So plus your brother, he went, when we talked about this in his interview, he went from being the D student in high school to being an Ivy League grad, right? So he has this tremendous ramp of success in his life.
And he was over high school.
And so this was something that it was not in alignment with his career. It wasn't in alignment with like his self-image of what his coworkers thought of him.
Yeah.
So he lies to him, and I can understand why. So
it's kind of tarnished.
So to me, clearly he's like embarrassed of it and doesn't want it to affect his career in law enforcement.
I can see that. But,
I mean, how do you wrap your head around that? So we already know how he coped with it. Mm-hmm. How have you coped with it? Like, have you wrapped your head around it? Because I know when we came back from a camping trip recently, it was about the 15-year anniversary or something, right?
Yeah.
And so they've been gone a while. And
19 years last April.
Yeah, or something like that. And, I mean, what do you tell people when they're like, and somehow it comes up, right? It's like,
oh, my parents died in an accident. And then they'll say, at the same time? Yeah, same time. Oh my God, what happened? Car? And then it goes from there. But for me, I don't care about persona or perception. Maybe in my 20s I was that guy, but now I try to be as real as I can. My fear used to be when they first died that people were going to think I'm cuckoo bird. Mm-hmm. And generally people do. But you know what? They can get bent because I don't care what small-minded people think. So I tell people it was a murder-suicide. My dad had a problem with alcohol.
Which is shocking to most people, right?
They're like,
I mean, if you just say it like you just did, matter of fact, you're just like, murder-suicide. People are like, whoa, shit, whoa.
My dad shot my mom while she slept, and then he shot himself. Oh my God, how you still got all your teeth? You're not all crazy and cracked down and depressed. Well, no. I mean, I didn't do it. I mean, I kicked myself into what ifs for many years, but it doesn't make me, like I'm going to go out and do that or somehow that's going to be in my future. I mean, that's horse shit. My grandfather didn't kill himself. He drank himself to death. But nobody was,
Okay.
you know.
Well, I felt it important to talk about that. 'Cause
I don't feel like shamed. Like sometimes I watch who I tell it to only because I don't want the conversation afterwards, right? The questions and the dude.
I can relate because when my son Dylan was killed in a motorcycle accident, and he was my only child, and he was killed when he was 21. That's an awkward conversation to have with people. You know, it happens every day with me at work where some way, shape, or form, someone's like, oh, you know, you got kids? And it's like, what do I tell them?
Right.
Right? It's like, well, I used to. You know, it's like, what? Well, my son passed away. And it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Right.
It's just like this awkward conversation.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how to relate. Right.
No, because everybody
so I get
thinks
it.
there's nothing to offer. I mean,
No,
it's like,
it's water under the bridge. It sucks. You know, I bear that cross just like you do with your parents.
but I got to tell you, the way I'm different than my brother is I still love my dad. I miss him. I feel for him.
I do too. I
don't think of him as like, oh, you goddamn murderer. I'm not saying my brother does. I'm just saying.
No, I still.
It would have been cool. It would have been cool for him to see the grandchildren right now, see where we're at.
So that's
in
the
life.
sense of nostalgia, right? A wise, mature Nathan can look back and with wisdom and have a sense of perspective, right?
Right.
Whereas a 20-something-year-old Nathan probably wouldn't have that sense of perspective, right?
No.
I never got the sense that even with, you know, the physical abuse, emotional abuse, everything that was going on with your dad and all his character flaws, I never got the sense that you hated your dad. I never got the sense that you were like totally bitter about your dad.
No.
Because, you know, and I told Robert this, I said, you know, he did have some redeeming qualities. He did have a lot of personality traits that maybe weren't good,
Right.
and some behavior that wasn't good. But there were sides to him that were very redeeming that I miss, you know, that I enjoyed.
He could be very empathetic, results oriented, very caring.
Yeah,
he
and
could do
you know,
all this, hard worker.
at times he had a great sense of humor. You know, he, you know,
Just let the world get to him.
yeah. So, you know, I have some very fond memories of your dad. So, you know, when I learned of that, when he told me that, I was like, oh man, like, fuck, I'm sorry. Like
I know. He must have been like, what? But he was like, whoosh.
Yeah, so he had already tuned it out. He was like, yeah, I really don't give a fuck. You know, he had already detached from the family years before.
And that's good for him. I'm glad he did that. Because, you know.
So he how should I say this? He embraces the lone wolf role. He embraces that.
Yeah, and it's good because I think
and it works for him.
Coming from that household, you come out of there with something, right? Even my brother, you have to come out of there with some residue, and I think he's dealt with it great. I think he's sought professional counseling. I think he's done some things and some realizations in his life where I don't need to be part of any negative crap, family or otherwise, and it's worked for him because now his task and his what he's leaving behind, he's got a big family over there that he needs to worry about. So all the other stuff just needs to go. For me,
but that's a parallel path for both of you, though, and we'll get into that in a second, because, you know, ultimately his happiness is his family now.
his legacy, right?
His legacy is his boys, right? So he's raising these young boys, and he's content, and he's giving them everything that he didn't have as a child, and he's living vicariously through them. So that's great. That's good for him. There's a lot of like self-redemption there on his story.
Yeah.
But it's kind of similar with you because, you know, you end up getting married with Tracy. You adopt her son, Noah, as your own, and now you're dad to Noah. And now you get to raise him. And now you get to be intimately involved in teaching him and mentoring him. And shit, we just took him on a camping trip not that long ago.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great. You know, you get to see different sides of him. And now he's starting to sort of become his own little person. He's a young man now.
And as fathers, we know we've been through it. We're fathers before. It's like if you were to have a kid now. Okay, I know the stages, 10, 11, 12, 13. I can see so I'm not worried about these signs of, oh my God, that's going to pass, because I know at 15 this and 16 that and 17 that. So don't worry about that. But for me, like going back to my brother, for me, it was a spiritual thing for me to not hate my father and not hate my mother. You know, I advocate spirituality because it does kind of open the veil on your mind where you don't have to think normally. I mean, yeah, he did a bad thing, and yeah, they passed and whatever. But I don't hold any grudges, and I don't hold any shame to like my family tree for that, because I know life and death. God's going to sort everything out. You know, he did what he did, whatever. I don't sit there and, you know, have this shame on me personally, because I didn't do anything, right? I have a kind of a deeper knowledge of, hey, people have their problems. You know, it's going to suck, thicker skin.
But at the same time, the show must go on. And you've got your own life to deal with.
Right. So I've taken a page, like I think out of my book, but you know, I've learned a lot of lessons from my brother over the years, kind of watching and people in you and people finding their happiness. Like, okay, I'm going to let Nathan come out again. It was sort of like a timid little mercat on the plains after the divorce. I mean, I was hurt. I'm not a terminator. I'm human, right? People think, oh, you know, I'm not a sissy and I'm not a wuss, but it does hurt because I'm not a robot. And it takes a while to get back into the sunlight where you can start dancing again, maybe listening to your favorite music that doesn't bring you stupid ass memories. Reinvent those songs, right? Got 50 more years on the planet, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's great. Noah's great. Tracy's we're like two peas in a pod. She's my yin to my yang, you know? She's gonna help me out because I'm gonna be brain dead at 80, and she's going to have to be there for me. I'm already losing it. I'm like, where'd I leave this? Where'd I leave that?
So I think, you know, another good thing about where you're at in your life right now is your relationship with your brother, Robert. So you guys were on separate paths for a while, and he pretty much made a conscious decision to not have you in his life. And he was doing the lone wolf thing, and he was like, well, I can't really deal with Nathan because he's either this, or that, whatever. So he kind of disassociated with your entire family for a while. And there were times where I kind of felt like I was in the middle because I'm friends with you, I'm friends with him, and I'm trying to broker and mediate, and I'm trying to like talk to your brother and be like, hey, you know, you should call him, or you should do this, or you should do that. And, you know, I'm trying to like play matchmaker, so, you know, to get you guys to you know, have a relationship, because, you know, the sense I got from Robert was he did want a relationship with you, but in his mind he wanted a normal relationship, whatever normal means. But that's what he wanted a normal relationship.
Well, thank God for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're in a good place right now, right? You guys communicate a lot. We all communicate. You know?
This is the next level in our manhood. This is where it should be. It's comfortable. It's earthy. It's lovely. It's what it's supposed to be, right? Yeah. And you know, you're a pinnacle in that.
All right. So talk to me about your current relationship with your brother. Your brother Robert.
So I mean, I respect him because I was volatile. I was needy. I was, you know, even though we've both been in the military and came out, I was a father first. It wasn't a competition. It's like I should have been more mature than I was then when I needed my brother. But no, I was volatile and I was standoffish and needy. And so he did the right thing. He did the right thing. I probably would have done the same thing. I was hurt that he didn't rescue me. I was hurt that he didn't save me. Or he tried at first, giving me wisdoms and, you know, taking Nathan camping and all that. But ultimately he did the right thing because I was just a needy, I wasn't happy. But now that, you know, but for me and my brother, it's weird because our whole lives, especially growing up in the household we did, we were like left and right arms. We were like this, symbiotic twins. And whether he wanted me around or I was blowing his cool or not, he was still like this. Nobody talks shit about my brother. Get the fuck out of here. No, come here. Nobody talks shit about my brother. Okay, we're in this together, right? That's how we were. So we go 9 months, 6 months without talking. I know where he's living in Police Academy now. was no big deal because I still love him just as much as I just saw him yesterday, kind of like you.
Yeah.
I know you're okay. You know I'm okay. But now it's more maturing where now we could be more mature to plan things together and kind of strip off all that old garbage.
Yeah, yeah. I think you and your brother are very different, and I think you complement each other very well. I think together as a team, you guys are very balanced. But he is very different from you. And I don't use that in a negative way.
Right.
It's just like an apple and an orange. There are some things that are, you guys are like two peas in a pod and you're the same. And then there are things that you're world apart on. For me, it's interesting to have history with both of you, because you're both like, you know, sort of the same, and I see the lineage there.
Right.
You guys have strong genes, man. The Parham clan has some strong genes, and you guys are so similar in a lot of ways. But I'm just really happy that today, that you guys are enjoying each other's company.
Yeah.
And you're both, you know, devout fathers, family men, and just enjoying life. And whatever struggles that either of you had in the past, whether it's family or, you know, childhood issues, none of that means anything today. You know, for whatever struggles you guys have had when you were younger, I think it just sort of made your gas tank a little bigger.
Right. That's the message I would give to everybody today. I don't care if you're new millenniums or whatever. Things are going to be okay. You have to hold on, right? So, yeah, we had a shitty, rocky childhood, whatever, and then we lost communication. He did his own thing, and you know, my thing kind of went to the wayside. He went to the Marine Corps, and he became embassy guard. But now that we're kind of having kids and slowing down, it's like we're just pick off where we left off, right? Clear, with the air clear. And I love him so much, and it's like, we are different in a lot of ways, but we are similar in so many ways where now we can kind of enjoy our lives, you know, without any confusion.
For me, it's a beautiful thing to watch. Like when we go to man camp or whatever, and I watch the interaction between the two of you, it puts a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Because it's like, man, for all the stuff that you guys went through when you were kids, you know, just to see how you guys coexist now, like truly like brothers.
Yeah.
You know, like
And it took work.
Yeah. Oh, it did.
Mostly on my part.
Well, no, I would say it took work on your part to be a presentable offer.
Yeah.
And then something that
I am.
something that he could accept. And then on his part, it took him to sort of be willing to engage.
Check it out, look at it.
To be willing to engage, because he'd been a lone wolf for so long that, you know, he was always kind of looking at you like, well, he's high maintenance, or he's this, or he's that, or he's got issues. And, you know, I think because of his career profession being a cop, he's like, fuck.
I'm on the gravelly road.
I'm not dealing with him. I can't, it's bad for business, you know, whatever. I think now it's like both of you put in the work with your relationship. You know, you are, and I would tell him this, I'd be like, no, he's doing really good, man. Like, he's not drinking, he's, you know, married, he's doing this, he's doing that, got this job, blah, blah, blah. And I sort of paint the picture that you were like, you had your shit together, right? And so I'm giving him like these little updates over the months and years. And finally I see he's starting to, basically he's starting to engage with you. And then the next thing you know, it's like, you go visit him, you meet the boys, you do this, you do that.
I think the first one was I went to their wedding, him and Liz's wedding. That was right at the end of my wedding. Oh, sorry. Am I saying that right? My marriage.
Yes, your marriage.
My marriage end, I'm going to his wedding. And, God, what a weird feeling. But that was towards the beginning of our kind of getting back to where I'm happy for him, and I'm kind of trying to repair and try to grow up a little bit, you know, so.
Well, let's close this out by talking about some lessons learned here. So we know that you're a resilient person. we know that bad things can happen to good people. And we know that if you just hang in there, man, and that's like a recurring theme on this show, is that if you can be resilient and if you can just hang in there, that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
But you have to be looking for that light and you have to accept it.
You got to look.
You got to accept it.
Right? You know, whether you believe in the Dalai Lama or your pet rock, if you accept tomorrow can be different, you don't need anybody else to make it different. If you just hold on, no matter your situation, things could change. You can be religious or not. It doesn't have to do with religion. It's called survival. Your situation's not always going to be the same. In fact, when you're in that muck again, you're going to be a little thicker skin. The mosquitoes aren't biting. Oh, I don't even feel them now. Mm-hmm. And you muddle through it. And then you can give that advice to your kid. Hey, I went through that. Don't do that. This is what I did, and this is what helped me. Mm-hmm. And then...
Yeah, I mean, I think if we think about that incident that happened to you in that bar where, you know, it's unfortunate that it happened. It's unfortunate that you had to go through that and that you know, but you took responsibility for your actions, which is huge. You didn't blame anybody else, and you owned it, and you did your time, and you moved on. And you had some struggles and self-medicated, and, you know, we covered all that. Mm-hmm. But in the end, I just like the fact that, man, you're always smiling, you're always happy, you're super social and friendly with people. And that's really rare, because oftentimes when people have an experience like you did where, you know, they go from being an apex predator, you know, Army Ranger, combat vet, all this stuff, and it's all yanked out and gone. And then all of a sudden, from hero to zero, and then everything just falls apart. A lot of people don't bounce back from that. Yeah. A lot of people, you know, commit suicide, or they OD from, you know, drugs. You know, they end up killing themselves indirectly, or maybe from alcoholism indirectly. They become abusive in relationships. They end up in our correctional institutions, long term. A lot of that kind of stuff. It's like the dominoes, man. And
I think people drink the Kool-Aid. I think that's why. I think they truly believe they can't do it, or oh, this is it, or this is disaster, or this is the end. You know, for me, it's not like that. If you do hold on, I mean, you know, be the commander of your own life, basically, right? I mean, it does send people into spin. For me, it opened my mind where, man, that sucks. I never want to feel that again. I want to feel good stuff.
Well, from my own experience, having experienced like failure in my own life and tragedy, it makes the successes that much more sweet and savory. Yeah. Right? It's sort of, you know, and I'm one of those guys, I don't get really emotional. I try to keep like an even keel, much to the detriment of my wife. I think she doesn't like that I'm a robot sometimes. You know, and I get it. You know, it's like I try to show more emotion with people, but I don't know. Maybe it's the military side of me or whatever. It's like I try to. You've always been that way. I don't have extremes. Right. Like I'm not up here and I'm not down here. Like I'm just kind of. You know, I don't get too crazy with the emotions. You're like Quinn in Jaws. Generally, yeah. I try to remain somewhat stable, right?
That's good, though.
Whether it's the military bearing in the Marine Corps or whatever, but, you know, there are some character flaws with that, I will admit. That not letting myself experience those emotions and not having that emotional experience, you know, sometimes it can hinder and develop my personal growth. Or certain relationships or situations. But man, you've always had a smile and you've always been like such a positive, like glowing light about you, which is great because I've seen your dark side and I've seen your anger and rage and I've seen what you can do when you snap. And you can be a very, very violent man when you want to. But the fact that you have control over that is great. That's awesome. You're like a gentle giant, man, like a Tasmanian devil who's just like in check.
Keep it locked.
Yeah, and I like that. So Nathan, brother, thank you for coming in, stopping in and chatting with me. I love you, man.
Love you too, brother. Thank you very much for everything. And
All right, dude.
thanks for being in our lives, man. And
Anytime.
we'll see what happens,
Anytime.
Future's bright.
All right, man.
Thank you.